Hello, everybody, and welcome to Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo football talk presented by Forefathers Organics. I'm your host, Alex Brasky, alongside my co-host, Ajay Cybulski, here for the Batavia Daily and Livingston County News. Each week, we'll discuss Buffalo's favorite football team, along with all the comings and goings from Orchard Park. And as I said yesterday, in this case, we are in Rochester at Bill's training camp, another jam-packed day on the fields here. Just a stone's throw away from beautiful Pittsford. Thanks to our friends at Forefathers Organics in Dansville. AJ and I will get to our discussion here momentarily, but before we get to that, our words from Forefathers.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit ForefathersOrganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, I'd like to thank Forefathers and like to thank all the viewers that have already joined and the viewers yet to join. Had a good response yesterday. Our first live show here from training camp, hoping to keep these pumping out throughout the preseason. But let's get right to it, AJ, starting with the action on the field today. The biggest news that I found was the Bills remain fully healthy. Now, you might say it's only day 2, but as we know, during training camp, a lot of nicks crop up with players. We did see Chase Claypool leave momentarily yesterday, and he was proven to be okay. He was out there in full capacity today. Also, Cam Lewis left the practice field briefly today, but he did return. I saw him leaving the lunch area on a scooter wearing a leg sleeve on his left leg just a few minutes ago. So it appears that he is okay, and the Bills' full 91-man roster, with Travis Clayton being that exempt player, the international pathway player, giving them 91 players to start camp, all fully healthy through 2 days. A great sign here at a picturesque St. John Fisher University.
Yeah, really important that they have this, sort of injury luck here for the first couple of days. Now, again, that can all change, and that's kind of the NFL in the sport of football. But good to see a healthy unit. Obviously, Matt Milano full again, so that's another huge development. Back-to-back days in full for the linebacker that I think a lot of people had questions about coming off that injury last season. And yeah, this is all you can hope for at this point. No pads on. You don't really want to face some unnecessary injuries. I know a Vikings player, 6th-round pick, don't know the name, but he potentially tore his ACL.
Aerosol, I believe.
Yeah, so he's undergoing further testing, which, that's scary stuff. A rookie, and you're in your first training camp and that happens. So it happens around the league. Everything can change in the blink of an eye, but good to see that throughout the first 2 days and even entering training camp, coming off the voluntary offseason programs, that the Bills are healthy and, they got a full unit ready to go.
Yeah, I had the name wrong. Darrisaw was actually the player on the 4-year extension with the Vikings. I'm not sure who you're referencing, but either way, Bill's healthy through 2 days in training camp. And you mentioned it in the lead-in, and I guess we'll get right to it. A bit of controversy sparked by one of my tweets sent out from Bill's training camp. I posted some video of Matt Milano on the practice field, and I thought he looked relatively healthy and didn't really see any lingering effects from that injury that ended his 2023 season. But upon further review, which is one of the great parts of social media, you get to watch those videos over and over and over and slow them down and watch them frame by frame. A few fans on Twitter and one of our buddies, Thigh Doctor, a bit questionable sometimes, but we do appreciate his banter on Twitter. But he pointed out a clip within I believe I posted 3 separate clips strung together, and one of them did show maybe a little bit of a favoritism of that injured leg when he was trying to push off during a drill. But for the most part, throughout the offseason and the start training camp, what I've seen from Matt Milano, he looks like a player that is not suffering many lingering effects from that injury. I think maybe what you saw during that video today was just his body maybe reacclimatizing itself to full effort plays while going through drills and maybe some unique athletic circumstances that he's being put in during training camp that he didn't experience during the off season and his rehab. So I'm not so sure if it's him still not healthy and suffering some pain in that knee, or if it's just his body kind of relearning how to use itself at its full efficacy. Did you watch the video? What was your takeaway? And did you see the people roast me and say, "What the hell are you looking at?"
No, I did not see the people roasting you, but I did watch the clip. I didn't really notice anything much. I kind of agree with your sentiment. It's probably just some knocking off some rust. Look, the guy hasn't played football in over a year at full go. So you're looking at a guy that's coming off an injury. And I'm not no injury expert. I don't really know much about it, but it looks to me if the Bills doctors and medical staff are clearing this guy to go full the first 2 days of training camp, I think it's like you said, kind of getting the body back to form and having some confidence. And this isn't time to build it in training camp. No pads. You can kind of get in a rhythm and find your kind of rift with where you're at and stuff like that. So yeah, I think Milano is going to be okay. I'm not reading too much into it. And if he's in full and the Bills doctors are giving him that clearance, then I'm not too concerned.
Yeah, I tweeted at Thigh Doctor after he called me out. I'd like to see his medical credentials. He calls himself Thigh Doctor. I'd like to confirm that doctor status before we giving too much credence to his opinion. But like I said, I always appreciate his feedback. But moving on to the action on the field during team drills, which is obviously the most exciting portion of these training camp practices. A lot of downtime with individual drills and stretching and walkthroughs and stuff like that. But the team drills is really where all eyes are on the practice field. And after an offensive explosion on day one, it was a little slow start for the Bills offense, perhaps by design. They did work the running game a lot to start 11-on-11 drills, but once the passing game got going, Curtis Samuel flashed immediately. He was all over the field catching passes from Josh Allen and Mitch Trubisky. He's been used with the first and second team throughout the offseason and training camp, just trying to get him as many reps as possible, I think, within this new offensive scheme, knowing how important he's going to be to this unit and knowing how versatile his skill set is and how versatile his responsibilities will be. We've seen him line up in the backfield. We've seen him line up in the slot. We've seen him line up all over the place. So I think a lot to be seen from Curtis Samuel this season. We're starting to see it come to fruition here during training camp. A great catch down the seam today. I believe it was Cam Lewis he beat on the right side. Josh Allen threw a great ball, fitted in down the seam, and Curtis Samuel made a great over-the-shoulder catch in stride, ran it about 50 yards for a touchdown. It was his shining moment here today for Curtis Samuel. Didn't hear a ton from him during the offseason training program and not a whole lot from him yesterday, but he was one of the main targets today during day two at Bills training camp at St. John Fisher.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel. And it's funny because I'm in a dynasty league and Bruce Exclusive is one of the guys in there. And I asked you this question probably a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, what do I do with who would you rather give away? Because I have Shakir and Curtis Samuel. I took over Chris Trapasso's team from CBS Sports a couple of years ago, and he kind of left me with some uncertainty. I finished bottom of the league last year, so I'm trying to rebuild, and I'm trying to. I need some running backs, so I was trying to get some receivers, and I had Shakir and Samuel on my roster, and I was kind of unsure. Bruce kept, sending me these trade offers. I felt like we almost had an agreement. I was going to send him a fourth-round pick and Samuel for Austin Eckler and a second-round pick, just because it's a dynasty league, so you kind of think of longevity, and we both didn't think Eckler had much in the tank, but didn't get it done. But today kind of, makes me realize that, and this is kind of what I've been saying to Bruce, is I'm not really willing to part ways with Curtis Samuel or Khalil Shakir yet, just because of the uncertainty of what they could be and what Samuel has done with Joe Brady and the quarterbacks he's had. I sent out a tweet today regarding Curtis Samuel's quarterbacks by year, going back to 2017. In his first season as a rookie, he had Cam Newton. So Cam Newton, again, he was a good quarterback, but in 2017, he was kind of on a downward trend. They still finished 11-5 that year. The next season, he had Cam Newton, Kyle Allen, Taylor Heineke. In 2019, had Kyle Allen, Cam Newton, and Will Grier. And then in 2020, his final year in Carolina, Teddy Bridgewater and PJ Walker. And then went to Washington. Yeah. And then went to Washington, reunited with Heineke, and then had Fitzpatrick and Garrett Gilbert for a couple of games to start. And then in 2022, Taylor Heineke, Carson Wentz, and Sam Howell. And then last season in
What
his
a
final
trio.
year.
What a
Right.
trio.
What a
Heineke,
trio.
Wentz, and Howell.
What a trio. And then last but not least, Sam Howell in 2023. So you just look at his quarterback play and what he's had throughout his career, combined with just the creativity from Joe Brady. And I think what this offense needs, he has that speed. Like, this guy's a sub 4.4 guy. He can be used in the backfield. He can be used as an X. He can be used in the slot. He's probably, going to build that rapport with quarterback Josh Allen, a guy that he's never even really, had much chemistry with, but it seems to be clicking nice and early. And it's just great to hear that yesterday we had Kincaid and Coleman, and now we're sitting here talking about Curtis Samuel, who, again, they brought in free agency, gave him good money, around $8-9 million per year. So they're betting on this guy to be a key contributor. So to see him out there today being used, all over the place, in motion, on screens, underneath, deep, it's just what you want and what you expect from a guy like Curtis Samuel.
Absolutely. And another star of the proceedings today offensively, Mack Hollins, a player that a lot of Bills fans, I think, are underrating, both in his ability to make the roster, but perhaps in his ability to become a contributor in the passing game. Today, he caught a number of balls over the middle. A couple of them went for 20-plus yards. I think one from Josh Allen, one from Mitch Trubisky. He has great size and really great leaping ability I've seen from him over these past couple of days. And Hollins getting involved in the passing game has to be a plus as this team looks for answers at that wide receiver position. We know what he can do in terms of his run blocking ability and aiding the running backs out of the backfield. Also expected to be a special teams contributor. If he can also be on the field as a pass catcher, that will up his value considerably for this team.
Yeah, and I think it also, I'm not going to say it gives a better shot for Chase Claypool to make the roster, but Matt Collins, I think, is a lock at this point. So if Chase Claypool can kind of find the niche in terms of special teams or some other case where he can kind of find a role, I think that'll help Chase Claypool maybe find the last roster spot, just because he has that skill set that Hollins has, and it's kind of, that maybe that backup role. But yeah, I mean, Hollins all over the place today. I saw him again. Anthony Cover One during day one of camp yesterday tweeted that Hollins was getting some looks as the X starting on the outside. So to see him followed up today with opportunities and making the most of them, he's another guy. I have not done it, but I wish I did. I wish I went through his quarterbacks to see what he's been dealt with a lot of underachieving, below average quarterbacks in his career. So he's another guy that really is playing with the best quarterback of his career. And again, just a physical freak, very interesting person, very unique. I think he's bringing some spirit out of these Bills players, these teammates. I think they're kind of rallying around him. Joe Brady mentioned today in his pre-presser that he he's not wearing shoes now, some of the guys, and he'll look around and then 10 other players aren't wearing shoes. So it was just funny that kind of his aura per se is, getting to the other players on the team. And he's just been a leader on and off the field. And I'm expecting maybe not big things, but I think he'll be someone we talk about more often than not this upcoming season.
Absolutely. And another player on offense that really shined today, Ray Davis getting involved. He's been steadily involved in the passing game, catching balls out of the backfield, but had a big run up the middle, burst through the middle of the line into the secondary, went about 50 yards to the end zone, and just showing great burst and some speed that I think is an underrated part of his game. Is a big sign for him as he looks to compete for that second running back role alongside Ty Johnson, who also had some big plays today. James Cook, and Ray Davis, albeit no pads on, and the offensive defensive linemen really aren't getting after it and not really fully wrapping up and hitting at the point of contact. But Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, James Cook, all impressive days here on day two.
Yeah, good to see the running backs getting involved. Ray Davis, a guy that I'm looking forward to see tomorrow when I'm there at St. John Fisher, a guy that I want to get my first kind of look at, because all I've been doing is talking about him for a few months now. So it'll be good to see him on the field in person, see what he's doing, and I'm looking forward to what comes from Ray Davis and his ability as not only a runner but a pass catcher. And again, ripping in the 55-yard run today or whatever the case was is good to see.
Now, where do we want to go next? We'll stay on the offensive side of the ball. First blemish from Kepn Coleman. So far during really the offseason training program and training camp. Had a great day yesterday and and really had an overall positive day today, but failed to haul in a pass near the sideline. Couldn't tell if it was a fumble or a simple incompletion. Damar Hamlin was the closest in coverage, appeared to knock the ball free. Like I said, unclear if Coleman had control of the ball or if the pass should have been ruled incomplete. But nevertheless, Damar Hamlin getting in there on another play, getting his hands in and making an impact. He was not the starter on defense today. It was indeed Mike Edwards. More on that later alongside Taylor Rapp. But Kepn Coleman, first minor blemish here, some minor ball security issues on one given play. Not an overarching concern, but something to watch if those moments continue to build up here.
Yeah, the only way to learn, as a rookie, and again, Brady talked about it, is kind of, making mistakes and learning from them. So he's a rookie. He's still a rookie. McDermott also mentioned that yesterday in his pre-presser before practice that, he's a rookie. He still is a rookie. There's going to be some blemishes along the way. So it is unfortunate. Maybe I wouldn't even go as far as unfortunate, but maybe is frustrating as maybe it was for Coleman on that play. I think that, he'll rebound, and he's off to a really good start here through the first 2 days. And all things I've read, all things I've seen have been good. So I'm glad that, he can make a mistake and hopefully learn from it and clean that up. And again, like you said, with Hamlin, a guy that's fighting for, I think he's a lock, but a potential starter spot getting the nod on day one next to Taylor Rapp. So if he continues to make these splash plays with the second and third team defense, it's a good sign for him, and potentially a guy with the most experience in the safety room has a chance at, getting the starting spot.
And we'll stay on the defensive side of the ball, or I guess we'll move to the defensive side of the ball. Big day for the Bills' defensive line, from my perspective. A sequence midway through team drills. Greg Rousseau gets his hand on the ball, bats it down out of the hand of Josh Allen. Then Ed Oliver getting a good push, knocking Deion Dawkins back into the quarterback. Ed Oliver has really burst onto the scene to start training camp once again. A great season, a career year last year. A lot expected of him this season, and I forget who it was, but I was listening to the various radio shows, podcasts that are produced by various content creators throughout the media sphere, and somebody was talking about how the pressure along the Bills' defensive line is really going to come from the inside out, and I think that rings true, especially with Oliver, how you saw him come on last year, and if Daquan Jones can stay healthy, his pass rushing ability before he went out last year was really something to behold at near the top of the league in terms of defensive tackles. So if those two can really get it cooking, as we saw from Ed Oliver today, this unit could be dangerous despite losing its leading sacker from a season ago and not knowing what you're going to get from Von Miller. If they can really start it from the inside out, as it looks like they're planning to do, I think that would be a great course of action, especially considering the way that offenses are structured now. If you can get that pressure up the middle, that's a game changer.
Yeah, and you look at, again, Oliver got that extension. A lot of people were questioning him, and you look, and I'm going down the list here. There's about, I'm not going to go exactly, but there's, about 15 guys right now at the defensive tackle position that are getting more than Ed Oliver per year. So that was definitely looking like a good contract now for Ed. He was always a guy that, when he got drafted to Buffalo in 2019, and his smile and his, kind of, again, his aura kind of walking out to get the draft hat and walk on the stage. It was just, you could tell he had the energy, and you're really seeing him kind of, I think, mature. I think he really took a step, not only in his game last year, but I think his maturity, you could just see that he just took a step there. And it's good to see him again, continue to build on that going into this training camp. Go right at Deion Dawkins, a guy that is coming off the best season of his career, and push him back and make some plays. So you really want him to really step up, maybe be that, again, 9 to 11 sack guy for this defense. And if they can get that out of him, like you mentioned, it only makes it easier for Greg Rousseau to work one-on-one, or an Ajay Cybulski to work one-on-one. And that's what this Bills defense will need. It's all about right now getting the most out of Ed Oliver, because I think they know what they have with him and they know his potential. And then hoping that Rousseau and Epinesa can elevate their games and become the players they drafted them to be, due to the, I would say, the wreaking havoc from Jones and Oliver.
And then sticking on the defensive line, if you look at the outside, Ajay Epinesa, Greg Rousseau, and Von Miller, the clear-cut top 3 candidates on the depth chart. But beyond that, kind of unknown who's going to fill out the depth roles at the 4th spot, maybe 5th defensive end. Dwayne Smoot was out there with the starters today and looking good in doing so, coming off that Achilles injury with the Jaguars. He's starting to round back into form, and giving him an opportunity with the ones. He seems to be locked in as one of the top 4 pass rushers on this team.
Yeah, I like Dwayne Smoot. I like the pick. I mean, you look from 2019 to 2022 and with the Jacksonville. So he's been with Jacksonville his whole career until this year. And then obviously suffered the Achilles injury last season coming off that. But in 2022, 5 sacks, 2021, 6 sacks, 2020, 5.5, and then 2019, 6. So he put a couple of consistent, solid 5-6 sack seasons together. And like I mentioned, for a guy that's fighting for that DN4 spot, that we both had on our final 53-man roster projections over on the Batavia Daily News website and newspaper. I think that Smoot is a guy who can just be that reliable 4th guy that can get a limited snap share and maybe make the most of it. Again, coming off an injury, so we'll see if he's the same guy right away. But as he grows and gets more reps and becomes, more comfortable in the Bills' defensive system, I think there's an opportunity for Smoot to really, make the most of his limited snap share.
And then another player, we mentioned him a couple times, Von Miller. He spoke to the media today after practice. I was not able to get up there. I think you were watching that press conference, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe you can give some better perspective on that. I was still down here on the field, kind of taking in the families who were out here on the practice field. And before we get to Miller, that's one of the best parts of training camp, seeing the players and their families interact on the practice field, the kids being out here wearing their father's helmets, running around with the football, being picked up and thrown around by their fathers who are like 8 times the size of them. It's just, it's awesome to see. And it's so adorable to see these young kids out here in their Bills gear.
Yeah, camp is an exciting time. Bills fans love it. They rally around it, whether it's family members of the team, especially, a lot of these guys have been doing it for a while, but there's just still so much joy that comes with camp. It's the start of a new season, new opportunity. They're probably just grateful that their dad, husband, brother are even out there playing because of the dangerous part of the sport and how physical it is. So it's just good to see that, a lot of families out there celebrate.
And Von Miller, like I said, he spoke to the media today, had not a lot to say for Von standards, only spoke for about 9 minutes. Usually Von can go on and on and on, but that leads me to my first point. I think Von you're never going to fly under the radar if you're Von Miller, especially how polarizing he was amongst the fan base last year. But I think he's doing his best to do so this season. Just fly under the radar, be kind of unseen, unheard in terms of his interaction. He kind of just runs onto the practice field, runs off. Not to say he's ignoring the fans, but I think he's just focused on business this year and looking to regain that form.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the part that I really enjoyed about Miller's press conference was he kind of stuck to his word, because we talk about, and we've mentioned on the show that last year he was talking about how he wanted to be ready by week 1, and he was ready, and he was feeling great, and he kind of basically said that what he said last year wasn't that true, but he kind of just had that optimistic mindset, and that if he went back, he wouldn't change a thing about it. And I think that's a good thing to have in life. Carry that with you, to be optimistic, positive, regardless of the situation. He's been doing it at such a high level for so long. He already tore his ACL in the past, so you feel like, he had that comfortability out coming off a second ACL tear where he thought he could get it done. So it's just good to see Von stick to that mindset and not really say, well, yeah, I was wrong for that. That's who he is. That's what he's going to be. And he said it. He's like, sometimes my optimistic mindset pays off and sometimes it doesn't. And that's life. And that's how it goes. And that's how the cookie crumbles. So yeah, Von, very well spoken today. I agree with you in what you said. I think he's really trying to focus on, getting that first sack. He hasn't sacked a quarterback in over a year now. And he talked a little bit about how much that will mean to him and his family to finally, take that quarterback down in a regular season game. And he hopes that's the case. So yeah, really good stuff from Von. I love the mindset from him. And again, he's one of the best. So of course that mindset has gotten him to where he is today.
Yeah, the quote about his optimistic mindset, he said, I think my optimistic mindset has won for me at times and lost for me at times. I think last year, a case where it lost for him. but he said he doesn't know any other way to think. And I think when you're programmed that way, that really carries you and vaults you to the level of success that he's had. But at the same time, it can maybe create a little bit of delusion regarding what your body is capable of. And I think that was the case with Miller last year. He said he's kind of measured by sacks, didn't get any last year, made 3 tackles, probably should not have played last year, but at 34 years old to sit out a season and a half just wasn't on my mind. So Miller's looked relatively good throughout the offseason training program and training camp. Yesterday, he did have a would-be sack going up against Spencer Brown. Didn't see much from him today. Like I said, just kind of fitting in with his teammates and trying to make the most out of this training camp period and get back to full Von Miller week 1 of the season. Another person who spoke to the media today, we had Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid. And Kincaid was talking about how his relationship with Josh Allen and that rapport is starting to build. Talked about how he and Allen went on some golf trips to some of the best courses in the country throughout the offseason, and just how he's starting to grow more comfortable as a pro. As a rookie, it can be tough to ingratiate yourself into a veteran-laden locker room such as the Bills had last season, but starting to find his way this year and take on more of a leadership role. Says he is a lead by example type of guy, but also mentioned that he's trying to do more vocal leadership, and they're going to need that from him considering how many targets are going to go his way, how heavily he's going to be involved in the offense. You know what they say, you need your best players to be your best leaders, and Kincaid seems to be trending toward taking on that type of role for this team.
Yeah, just as important as his production and usage in the Bills' offense and what Joe Brady plans to do with Dalton Kincaid, it's just as important that he takes that next step as a leader going into his second season. So good to hear that he's kind of taking the Bulls by the horn and really trying to make that a priority of kind of his career right now and going into his second season. So yeah, really like what I've seen from Kincaid so far during camp. And again, I think he's a guy that probably is on the quieter side, but you work with Dawson Knox, another guy that I think will bring leadership to this, tight end room and Bills offense. Those two go hand in hand, and you go back to like last year when they did the Bills embedded and they golfed together, and you could see the instant connection there between those two guys. DK, same initials. So hopefully those two guys can really figure it out in the red zone this year and become a dynamic tight end duo. I'm hoping, and I think they can be a top 5, unit.
Before we keep going here, a word from Forefathers Organics. At Forefathers Organics, their mission is to liberate, educate, and innovate with the highest quality CBD and hemp-derived products for your mind, body, and soul so you can live happy and free. Visit them at 87 Franklin Street in Dansville, online at Forefathers Organics, or call them at 585-335-2223 to learn more about the products they offer. All right, AJ, one of the last orders of business here on Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo Football Talk, our second live episode right here from St. John Fisher University and Bills training camp. Your takeaways from the Joe Brady press conference, touched on his relationship with Josh Allen, on how it's been fun kind of taking a step back and giving Allen the reins of this offense. And that's something that Allen is going to need to do this year with so many new pieces. He's really going to have to make this offense his own as much as Brady is making it his own. So a lot discussed by Brady during his press conference. You wrote a story about it on the dailynewsonline.com along with my takeaways. They can both be found on our website. Why don't you discuss your top takeaways from that press conference?
Yeah, I think obviously the big two things that kind of the article was about over on the dailynewsonline.com was Josh Allen's leadership growth and how, again, Brady's been here, like you mentioned, since 2022 as a quarterback's coach, and obviously stepped into the interim role last year and now taking over as a full-time offensive coordinator, while also kind of that, everybody eats mentality. I compared it to Duck Duck Goose. Whose turn is it going to be to step up on the Bills offense from time to time? Who knows? But yeah, I think Brady, and I'll quote him here, talking about kind of the approach Buffalo's offense will utilize. He said, we don't have positions. The way that we taught the offense, we just taught everything conceptually. These are 3-man concepts. These are 2-man concepts. These are full field progressions. It really forces the guys to understand that any given moment you can be on any of these spots and you have to know it. They have to know it all. That's been a big point. So I think that's a huge one takeaway, because you're seeing, these players line up all over the place, whether it's Coleman in the slot or Kincaid out wide. They're doing different things. They're using a lot of motion, and you're seeing them kind of what Brady's preaching during the press conference. They're doing that. So it's good to see them utilizing different players at different spots, trying to be versatile and really being a versatile unit with a roster that there's really not that guy. And again, people commented and responded to me and said, there's going to be a number one, which yes, there may be a guy that leads a team. There's going to have to be a guy that leads a team in targets and production, but I don't think it's going to be like we've seen in the years past with Stephon Diggs on the roster. On top of that, he talked about Allen's leadership and growth as a leader with this offense and taking over kind of the reins of it. He said, and I quote, "You see how much he's matured in the offense in terms of the ownership of just teaching the guys exactly what he's seeing that growth, where I can take a step back and allow him to communicate a lot more. It's been a lot of fun." He kind of has to do that because we had a lot of receivers in the past that have played in this offense and kind of already knew those things. It's been a lot of fun just seeing him take that and roll with it and understand how important it is that we have new guys that are attached to his hip, and it's fun to watch. So I think the willingness there from both sides, from Allen and the receiving corps, to really build a rapport together and really come together and make things work and be an explosive offense. I think this Bills offense, and this is kind of my point that's kind of come to fruition today for me, was yes, I think the number one alpha receiver is an option that many offenses take. I think that's important. I think that's, especially for a quarterback growing and maturing in this league, I think that's huge. But the upside, although it's more risk, the upside that comes with being an offense that can attack you in multiple ways with different players, and one guy can be a first read in one progression, and the next play a different player can be the first read, instead of it being usually the number one guy always being the first read. I think that's just important for this offense. And I think, again, the risk is great. Like they don't have a guy that is well known around the league, has had major success in this league, has been a consistent wide receiver in this league. But if they can figure it out, communicate, the camaraderie, Brady talked about the team approach and celebrating, and how he kind of manages the they've been here before approach compared to the celebration and having fun. So I think it's just a group of guys that there's no ego. And again, it might not work. And it might be a struggle, but I think the idea and what their kind of approach is and what the coaching staff is emphasizing, hopefully with Josh Allen at center, it can turn out to be a good thing.
And the Bills have been preaching the motto, everybody eats, throughout the offseason. Everybody's heard them say that. Joe Brady said it today. I think Khalil Shakir mentioned it, Dalton Kincaid as well. I think they might want to expand that phrase to go off your point just made. Everybody eats together. And I think that's really a rallying cry for this team, just the togetherness this year, with all the drama last year and Stephon Diggs making it about himself during the preseason and really throughout the season making it about himself. Some selfish acts from him throughout the course of that campaign. This year, this team truly seems to all be pulling the rope in the same direction. I know that has always been the talk from this team in the past, how together they are, how they're a family. But this year, it really seems to be something special. And that's a surprise, knowing how many new players there are on this team. But perhaps that's something that spurred that along, just getting some new blood in here. And having some players take over new leadership roles. Maybe that's changed the dynamic in that locker room. And if you walk past the entrance to the Bills locker room here at St. John Fisher, there's banners that say 1/11th and 11 for 1. So 1 for 11, 11 for 1. And I think that's a point well taken for this team, that just that togetherness that they're trying to breed throughout this roster is going to be so key for them as they go throughout this season. There could be some bumps in their road. There could be some growing pains. There is definitely going to be some stuff to figure out for this team. As long as they remain together, the talent on this roster, the experience at the quarterback position, the experience at the head coach position, you have what it takes to compete. I think it's just a matter of staying together throughout what could be a transitional start to the season.
Yeah, and like I closed the article, I said stacking bricks. They're going to be a team that stacks bricks, but instead of stacking bricks individually, they're going to stack. They want to be stacking bricks together, and I think that's what they want to do. They want to work in unison. So stack those bricks high. Probably a little cliche, but seriously, I think they're a group that wants to stack these bricks together and not just do it individually. Oh, you do this, you work on this, and we'll figure it out. And I get it; it's the NFL, and a lot of teams that's the goal. But you do have scenarios where I think the individual does come before the team in instances. So I think there's definitely some hope that this year they can find continuity and come together and really be together as one, like you mentioned. And if they can do that, it's risky. It is risky, like I continue saying, but I think it might turn out okay.
So tomorrow we hear from Bobby Babich before training camp practice. Excited to hear from him after his first few days on the field here at St. John Fisher. Had some time calling plays, so excited to hear his reflection on how things have gone for him. A tough day on the first day for the Bills defense, but I think they started to figure some stuff out today. I think it's a little bit difficult in that red zone area. It's all about communication, and when you have a new D coordinator and so many new pieces, I think the offense might have had an advantage on day one, but as things go along here, I think I expect to see things even out. What are you, if anything, excited to hear from Babich? What do you think he's going to say? What are your impressions of him so far throughout this offseason and training camp?
Yeah, I want to hear from him regarding the safety position. I think that's the biggest thing. How they're going to approach that throughout training camp. Is it going to be that rotational, the rotation kind of thing we saw last year, where it was at the middle linebacker position with Bernard, Spector, and Dodson? Now, obviously, Bernard got hurt, so that kind of ruined that rotation. But assuming all guys are healthy and okay, I want to see how they're going to approach that. If it's just going to be a day by day thing, they might not probably give us too much, but I still want to hear and see how they're going to handle that in terms of just maybe energy. I want to hear from him in terms of the energy he's brought and how he's seen that kind of go on the roster, on the defensive rosters, the defensive side of the ball. And yeah, that's really it with Bobby. Again, he's a guy that there's a lot of uncertainty. He'll probably call some plays in the preseason and maybe take over the play calling. So maybe how much has he done in the off season to get to a point where he's felt comfortable. And like you mentioned yesterday, he's a guy that you don't really know you do something until you're doing it. So until he's actually doing the play calling, you're not really going to know how good you're going to do, but he was going to prepare. So maybe just give an update on his preparations and how that's gone throughout the offseason and where he feels like he's at now. And that'll be kind of the big three things I want to hear from him.
Before we get on out of here, another word from our sponsor, Forefathers Organics.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, that's going to do it. Back to the practice field tomorrow at 9:45 a.m. Break on Saturday. Pads expected to come on Sunday. That is not for sure, but that's been the talk. Pads coming on Sunday. So a lot to look forward to here at St. John Fisher. We have the return in blue and red coming up next week. You'll be out here on Friday, tomorrow, actually. So why don't you give the people just I know we did this yesterday, but anything else on your mind that you're excited for tomorrow?
Yeah, just content. Give Bills fans, that's the goal, right? Get the camera out, take as many videos, make sure my phone's charged. I got the energy. Wake up nice and early, get a nice breakfast in. And I think we're going to get some garbage plates after at Dogtown. So looking forward to that because I went to Brockport, so that's a staple for me. And I love garbage plates. So looking forward to the food, the content, just the overall experience. And again, it's a first for me. So, doing something that you've never done before, although it's stressful, it's just, overwhelmed with excitement and looking forward to it.
All right, AJ. Well, like I said, that's going to do it here from St. John Fisher with the Right Here, Right Now live Buffalo Football Talk podcast. For AJ, I'm Alex. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.